underway. You can kill my mind for flow. Hold me till I scream for air to breathe, and wash me over until my will runs dry. Send all your sins all over me, baby, baby,
Hey y'all, how y'all doing? How y'all feeling? I hope all is well with you. Today we're going to finish off this Dennis the Menace saga. It's long overdue, and this is the final last happenings of what happened in court and all of that. So I wanted to make sure to finish it off. So here we are. Let's get into it.
Story time of how I was framed for smuggling rugs in a foreign country, part 38 of the Menace saga. So obviously, I go back to my spiritual worker and I update her on what had just happened. And she's trying to calm me down, and she's like, it's okay, maybe things are aligning, like, it's okay. Mind y'all, I went to multiple spiritual workers, and I narrowed it down to just working with this one, and I probably should have never went to multiple, but outside of the two that I already told you all about, I probably went to maybe 4, and they all said the same thing: court's going to end in February, and I'm going to be okay, and also that, yes, this was root work and witchcraft. So everyone said the same thing. I know I shouldn't have had that many people playing in my energy, but I was just so irritated. So I was like, yo, they're clearly still doing witchcraft. Like, what is going on? This was the trajectory of my life, and somehow it was changed. So she calms me down, and she's like, it's okay. Stop worrying about the witchcraft. Stop worrying about the root work. Stop worrying about all that. Like, it's okay. We're going to figure it out. And so I'm like, all right. So February rolls around, and I'm scrolling through TikTok one day, and I noticed that I have some new followers and a lot of profile views, and they're all friends of each other. So I'm like, that's kind of weird. So I go to my message request, and lo and behold, I have a message in my message request, and that message pretty much consists of, hey, we need to speak ASAP about that guy who framed the girl in Virginia. If you've been following my story, or if you've gone through my videos on TikTok, you know that I'm not the first person that the Menace has framed. There's allegedly another girl out there that he has framed. And I made a video about that prior, like last year. So the conversation is going on with this person, and the girl is like, can you call this person on Instagram? And I'm like, wait. Is this the current girlfriend? And she's like, yeah, but I promise it's no messy stuff. And I'm like, okay, but if she's not willing to leave, there's really no point in me talking to her. And she's like, no, please call her. So I call the girl on Instagram, and there's multiple people talking. So there was multiple people in the room at this time that I'm talking to this girl. And I pretty much let her know who the Menace is. I let her know that he's a narcissist, he is an abuser, he beats women, he grapes women, and he framed me. So I let her know all this stuff. The conversation's going on, and I'm pretty much like telling her she needs to run. I also warn her not to give him access to her home. I obviously don't know their background, so I was like, I don't know if y'all are living together at this point. Mind you, though, Sarah and the Menace just broke up in November. It's now the beginning of February that I'm talking to this girl. So, but yeah, I'm like, I don't know if y'all are living together, but I just, don't give him access to your home. I'll let her know what happened with me, and that was that. One of her friends also, while they were on the phone, was just like, I think she's being love bombed. And I was like, absolutely. I can't remember all the contents of that phone call, but I was warning her. I told her a brief overview of everything I had. So we ended that phone call, and I give her Sarah's information because Sarah agreed to talk to her as well to give her side of what happened with Sarah and the Menace. So I send over Sarah's information for her to contact Sarah as well. And the girl starts asking me like a whole bunch of questions, pretty much reiterating everything that I already said on the phone. So I found that to be weird, but I was still being nice to her and, you know, just like kind of trying to be understanding because I've obviously have been love bombed and I've obviously been in this situation. So answering her questions the same way I answered them on the phone. And she starts asking me weirder questions like who are the people he essayed? I already gave you Sarah's information. Why do you need more? Also had sent over the Menace's criminal record. So she did already have that. And she also asked me if I can send her over evidence from my case in Korea. And specifically asked for the proof I have of the threats he was making to me via text messages. Like if I had screenshots. Obviously, I didn't give her any of that. I was still being nice and trying to be understanding through this conversation. But I should have aired this girl out. Also, I don't have a nickname for her except for current girlfriend. If y'all have a nickname for her, because I truly don't think that she deserves a normal name. I want to call her Dum Dum, but I feel like that would be hypocritical of me because obviously I was dumb in certain situations as well. So, yeah, if y'all have a nickname, put it in the comments because I really don't have one right now. So that's going on. I also asked her, how long she's known the Menace or how long they've been dating. And she tells me 2 weeks. They've known each other for 2 weeks. Actually, she said like 3 weeks, but I found out it was more like 2. And so in my brain, I'm like, why are we even doing all this? Like, why are we even having this whole long conversation? You asking me damn interview questions and we already had a conversation. I already gave you like his criminal record. What are we doing right now? Like, I'm kind of getting irritated at that point, still holding my composure. But she did not deserve for me to hold my composure, y'all. I promise you she did not. So I'm like, just get out of there. Like, get out of there. Also, during the phone call, I asked, like, what the Menace was doing or something. Like, is he working? You know, something. I can't remember exactly what I asked. But she said that he was working at a group home. Some people have looked into it. Allegedly, that man was not working at no group home. He possibly was living at a group home, but he wasn't working at one. Allegedly. So I end this conversation with her, and I am just like, do not tell the Menace we spoke. Me and her friends also told her that on the phone. Do not say anything about this to the Menace. The next day, I'm on TikTok, and the Menace's friends are starting to follow me on TikTok, and they're all in my profile views. So I'm obviously talking to the friend that initially wrote me. If y'all have been in my lives, then y'all probably know exactly who this is because she has been in my lives going in. She's been on there a couple of times. But I'm talking to her, and I'm like, yeah, letting her know that these people are now following me. So she comes back later and she's like, yo, she told the Menace everything. She told the Menace that the friends were at the house with her. She told the Menace everything about my conversation. Mind y'all, her friends came to her house with wine and food to sit down with her and have a powwow, a come to Jesus moment, and a support session to have her leave this man that they already noticed red flags in. This 2-week relationship. They are really going in for this girl. And she has now put my life and their lives in danger because I've told them, all of them, how much of a dangerous person he is. So you can't be a girl's girl to everybody. Learn it from me. So by this point, Sarah has now opened the message from the girl. She didn't see it initially because I think it was in her request box. So, you know, Sarah's now up to date on what's going on, and Sarah shuts the conversation down because obviously the current girlfriend is just trying to get information to take back to the Menace. And yeah, 1 point for Sarah, 0 points for me. because I should have shut it down too. I ended up finding out that after this phone call with this girl, she was like crying and pretty much talking about how much she loves the Menace. And also, one of the red flags that the friends saw was one night during playing Never Have I Ever, the Menace said something to the effect of, "Never have I ever forced someone to have intercourse." And laughed about it. That was his "never have I ever" joke. And then I follow up with telling her that he grapes people. And her response is that he's never graped her. She slept with him and he's never graped her. I don't have nothing more to say about that girl. Anyway, come up with a nickname, please. Part 39 of how I was framed for smuggling rugs in a foreign country, the Menace saga. So before I jump into this next set of trial, I wanted to close out the story with the frat brother. So the frat brother, the whole time that I was in Korea, he would always invite me to his home. He would always like just say things like, "Oh, like come over, come watch football with me. You can always come over, da 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 da." Like consistently invited me to his house, and I would always kind of brush those invites off and be like, "Oh yeah, my mom, like she likes football. Maybe we can both come over." Or yeah, maybe you can watch football with my mother. The frat brother, as I've said before, is old enough to be my father, and he looks old enough to be my great grandfather. Ancient as fuck. So one time he invited me to a kickback at his home, and it was pretty much a kickback with like a lot of our coworkers, the black people who worked on base with me. And I was like, okay, let me go over here. Because I know I'm going to probably need this later. So I went over to the frat brother's home and I made sure that I took pictures. I just took pictures of the party like, oh, we're taking shots. Let me get a boomie. Let me get a picture. Oh my God, y'all, pose for the picture. And I was making sure that I had the background of this home in my photo album. So I did that. Also, during like some point during this story, there was a guy on base who was trying to pursue me, and he ended up letting me know one day. He was like, "I was really skeptical of pursuing you because the frat brother told him that the Menace and I were working on things and we were working things out and not to talk to me." Y'all, this is months and months and months after I left the Menace. This is after I talked to Sarah. So by this point, this is after the Menace has already been put out of my house and put out of someone else's home. And you mean to tell me I'm trying to work things out with him and you're stopping people from talking to me? Like the frat brother was just out here lying, y'all. So during this time, people would also come up to me and pretty much ask me what was going on with me. And they would pretty much tell me that the Menace's frat brother was spreading my information and telling people that the Menace was framing me in Korea. Like he would say something like, "Oh yeah, he's trying to put stuff off on her because she broke up with him and blah, 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 blah." So you knew this information. Either the Menace told you the truth and told you what he was doing, or you figured it out. And you at no point was like, "Hey, I know you're in this pickle. Like, let me help you. I have information that would be good for your case. Let me help you." Like, I'm about to lose my entire life behind this man. And at no point. So as time went on and as I was communicating with Sarah started opening up about things as our conversations went on. And Sarah met the Menace in Korea. She met him at the boat party that I mentioned before. And she let me know that she did go to the Menace's home in Korea. And so I was like, "Oh, do you have pictures or do you know whose home you were at?" Blah, 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 blah. And she ended up sending me pictures from the home she was in Korea. And lo and behold, obviously, it was the frat brother's home that the Menace was staying at. So when the frat brother called me after the boat party and was like, "I didn't even know y'all weren't together. I didn't even know anything was going on with y'all. I didn't see you at the boat party, and I thought that was weird." The Menace was staying at his house before that. So he knew. he knew the whole time. After the menace left Korea, the frat brother also ended up moving into my apartment complex in Korea. And yeah, he's just been weird ever since. Once I completely had evidence that the menace was staying with him, I just cut him off completely. I stopped speaking to him. I like, hello, goodbye, none of that. I just will walk past him. He called me one day and asked me what he did to me, and I was like, I don't know, what did you do to me? And then I changed the conversation to a work conversation because I actually needed something from his office. So that was pretty much that. I haven't really spoken to him since. He does do weird things. Like if he sees my car somewhere, he'll come up and park right next to me. I've been sitting in my car at like some points and I've seen him just staring at me, and it's like this really nasty, I want to say demonic looking, like Joker kind of look. I don't really know how to describe that, but kind of like the same looks that the menace was giving me when I was putting him out of my home and he was pretty much running the police. So that's kind of the same looks that this frat brother gives me now. And it's just really disgusting when I see him, to be honest. And obviously I was always on to him, so I only fed him information that I wanted him to know. And sometimes I threw little monkey wrenches in there because that's what you were doing to me. Period. Also, once this was over, people did mention to me that the frat brother had mentioned something or said something along the lines of wanting to date me, talk to me, or whatever. He probably just wanted to F me because the menace was showing him videos of me that were taken without my consent. So also, at one point before I like completely knew that the menace was staying at his home, I went to his house to pick up tickets for something that he was selling tickets for. And my intent was to just go there, get the tickets and leave. But he didn't greet me at the door with the tickets. He was like, oh, come in, like da 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 da. And so, yeah, I went in and we were just chit-chatting it up, talking, and he was, you know, giving me the tickets and giving me the information for the tickets. And as I'm in the house, I realized that his pants are unbuckled and unzipped. So that was kind of uncomfortable, to say the least. But yeah, that's the end of the story with the frat brother. The menace was staying with him the entire time. So every time the frat brother hit me up, tried to get information, or was trying to ask me how I was doing and trying to act like he was genuinely concerned about me and my well-being, he was just getting information to take back to the menace. How I got framed for smuggling rugs in a foreign country, part 40 of the Menace saga. So now we are going to talk about what happened in this second set of trial hearings. So as you can see here, the fourth trial was not held, and my next trial date is March 20th. So March 20th, we get into court, and we see immediately that everything has changed. Obviously, I already said that it would, but now I have, instead of having two female judges and one male judge, I now have two male judges and one female judge, and the male judge is the head judge, and then I also have a male as a prosecutor. So my lawyer is instantly like, this judge, I know this judge, I've been in court with this judge before. He's really fair. Everything just depends on the prosecutor and how the prosecutor acts and whether or not the prosecutor believes you. So that happens. So on this day, March 20th in court, the prosecutor is requesting for the menace to be subpoenaed to court. Mind you, we already know that the menace is not in Korea. So why are you subpoenaing him to court? When it's in the case file, you clearly didn't like read the case file. So, you know, my lawyer is like, he's not here. And so they pretty much are like, well, if we can't get him here, we'll do something on video conference so that he can testify. So the prosecutor is using the menace as evidence against me. That's why he's being subpoenaed to court right now, so that he can testify to put me in prison. The prosecutor at this time is also asking for evidence that the lawyer had removed from the evidence file, the file that goes to the judges. The prosecutor was also asking for some of that evidence to be re-entered into this trial. Now we know that we are about to have a time with this prosecutor, and he's kind of wasting time. We're already on the second set of trial, and now you're trying to subpoena the menace to court. Like, that's wasting time, because like in trial in Korea, one thing happens each time. So if he subpoenas the menace to court, then that means the next court date, nothing really happens. That was the court date set for the menace to come to trial. If there's a witness in court, the only thing that happens that day is the witness testimony. And that's it. Court's adjourned. So you're just prolonging this process now at this point. So as you can see here, my fifth trial was held on May 10th. So from March to May, nothing. That's how long these things are spread out. And then my next trial is set for 7 June 24. During my fifth trial, obviously the menace did not show up to court. Also during this time, I guess the prosecutor at this point like looked over the case file, and he was like, if he comes to Korea, like we pretty much won't have like a way to get to him or get him, because he'll be arrested as soon as he gets into the country. So that was one thing. And the prosecutor could not get in contact with the menace. So that was another, so they couldn't set up a video call or anything. So during this court date, they asked me if one of my witnesses could come from the United States to Korea. The judges asked for this. And then my lawyer kind of went back and forth and was like, okay, well, what about a video conference? Why can't we do a video conference? To save money. And so the judges were like, okay, yeah, we'll look into that. After this court date concluded in May, my lawyer came back to me and was like, they can't do a video conference. You have to fly that witness out from the United States. Couldn't set up a video call or anything. So during this court date, they asked me if one of my witnesses could come from the United States to Korea. The judges asked for this. And then my lawyer kind of went back and forth and was like, okay, well, what about a video conference? Why can't we do a video conference? To save money. And so the judges were like, okay, yeah, we'll look into that. After this court date concluded in May, my lawyer came back to me and was like, they can't do a video conference. You have to fly that witness out from the United States into Korea. And so at this point, I'm like super irritated, because what do you mean you can't do a video conference? You were going to do one for the menace, for the prosecutors, but you can't do it for me. Now I have to come out of pocket to fly someone overseas. And at this point, like I was starting to realize that a lot of everything that they were doing was kind of like a money grab from Korea. Like even with my lawyer was supposed to go to the police station and get them to do forensics on my email. She was asking me for a couple of extra dollars just to go to the police station to do that. A few $1,000 extra dollars, not a couple extra dollars. So from here, I talked to an attorney from the States, and she was saying that I need to somehow prove that I wasn't in the same location. And she was like, can you somehow prove that? And I was like, oh my God, yes, I actually can. I took screenshots of the logins from the day the menace was sending emails from my email account. So I got those screenshots, and obviously, thank God, my mom ended up coming in that day, because I was hours away from the menace the whole time he was in my email. So my email on my current device was hours away from other logins that he had logged in on my computer. So that ended up helping me in court. I was like, it's a money grab. The translator was consistently asking me for things, like just consistently pulling on me. And also the translator had this thing where she wanted me to stay in Korea for 5 years. So she was consistently adamant, like, if we work on this, if we work really hard at this, will you stay in Korea? I want you to stay in Korea. Will you stay in Korea for the full 5 years if we work on this for you? Obviously, I'd be like, yeah, of course, but fuck no, I'm trying to get out of here. So the translator was literally trying to control me, and I think she was just like honestly a new narcissist that entered my life, but I absolutely needed her at this time because I needed them to work on this and I needed to get out of this and get out of Korea. So everything surrounding this situation became a money grab from Korea. Yeah, I get a call from my lawyer and my lawyer's like, yeah, you have to fly someone out here. So I flew someone out here. They requested a specific person and I flew that person to Korea. Paid for the round trip, everything, made sure that person was comfortable, groceries, the whole nine, just made sure that that person was comfortable in Korea. So that was May 10th and that person was coming, had to be here by June 7th. So I literally had like 3 weeks to plan this by the time that they told me that they weren't doing a video conference. So I did have to fly one of my witnesses out, and I'm not going to say too much about who that was or anything. I can't say that right now, but just let y'all know there is content that was made during that time. So that will come out a little later when it can, but I cannot put that content out right now because, yeah, stick around for that for later. But June 7th rolls around and that person flies into Korea, or I think they got here maybe around like June 5th or something. And so we're sitting down with her and, you know, just going over everything that the prosecutors and the judges are going to ask and what my lawyer is going to ask. So we're, you know, she's meeting with my lawyer, she's meeting with my translator, and that's what we're doing. She testifies in court. And that went well. I think that went well from my perspective. From my lawyer's perspective, it went well as well. After she sits down and she's done testifying, that is when my charges are read to me, and that is when my possible sentence is read to me. And that is when I found out that I would be, I could be spending 5 to life in prison. The judges initially said that the highest sentence was life. That is what he first said. And y'all, when I tell y'all, I kind of blacked out from there. I really didn't hear anything else that he said. And I was just like, wait, can I ask a question? I was like, how long is life? Like, what does life mean here? You know, like, I need to know what are we looking at? Like, does that mean like 25 years or does that mean for the remainder of my life? Like, what's the range? And I didn't hear him say 5 years. My witness actually told me later that he said the lowest sentence was 5 years. And my lawyer told me that later as well. But y'all, I did not hear that in court. My brain just went blank. And I was like, life? How I got framed for smuggling rugs in a foreign country. How I was framed for smuggling rugs in a foreign country, part 41 of the Menace saga. So after this, after all that happened and my witness testified and all of that, the prosecutor is now requesting for the translator who translated the menace at the prosecutor's office when the menace was framing me. The prosecutor's now asking for that person to testify in court. So as you can see here, my 6th trial was scheduled for June 7th and the next trial is June 19th. So June 19th is rolling around and that's what we're preparing for. Obviously, my lawyer at this point is like, this prosecutor is trying like really hard to put you in prison, pretty much. Like, he's trying so hard, pretty much grasping at straws. My witness's testimony was really good, so now he has to pull out another witness because he can't get the menace here. So we sit down in court and the translator who translated for the menace comes to court, and you know, she's telling her counts and everything. He ends up saying in court that they knew that the menace was framing me. She was just like, the defendant, which is me, was just really silly, didn't, you know, come forth or say anything, but we knew that the menace was framing her. And so the judge like asked her to repeat that multiple times. They were like, who was framing who? The girl was framing the boy, or the boy was framing the girl. And this witness, who was the witness there for the prosecutor, sat there and she was like, the boy is framing the girl. We knew. We talked about it. And so that kind of like pretty much dismantled the prosecutor's case, and that was his witness. So after this, the prosecutor is requesting to the judges, because the prosecutor can send in what they recommend. The prosecutor requests that I receive 5 years in prison for these crimes. And so my lawyer and myself, we left this courtroom and we were extremely pissed, because like, it was just, my lawyer was kind of like, I don't understand how things like got this bad. How did things go this way? So as you can see here, my next trial was held on June. Was held on June 19th. I scheduled the next trial. Somewhere in here, I missed an email, because it says the next trial will be sentencing on July 10th. I missed an email somewhere. I don't know. But there was another court date after this June 19th court date. And that was me testifying. But yeah, so at this point, the prosecutor is still arguing that I'm lying, that I should get 5 years in prison for this, and that's pretty much what's happening. And so we leave that court date and we're kind of like, we don't know what's going to happen. We have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. Obviously, go brief my supervisor on what's going on at this point. My lawyer and my translator are also like, if things go bad, we can definitely appeal the courts if things go bad. And I just went and I briefed my supervisor and I was like, I'm not going to lie to you, sir. I don't want to go through this again. I've already gone through trial twice. I don't want to appeal anything. If things go bad, I will resign. I will go home. Like, I don't want to appeal the courts if this doesn't go well. So now that's pretty much what I'm briefing, because this whole time, everything was going well. Like, I was briefing to my supervisor that things are going well. We think we're going to win, blah, 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 blah. And so at this point, I was just like, yeah, I don't know. Also, I, throughout this whole situation, was like, what happens if I do get a guilty verdict on bringing my prescription here? And my leadership is like, nothing. You didn't break any U.S. laws, so nothing happens. If you get guilty on that, you'll be fine. So the whole time I was kind of really fighting for the fent issue, because I really didn't care too much about the Adderall in my prescription medication issue. Like, I was just like, you know what? If me, being involved in this, lying for the minutes, doing all this stuff, if I have to take that fall for my prescription, then I'm okay with that. I can deal with that as long as I don't get jail time. I can deal with that. So that was kind of like, just me holding myself accountable. Like, you know what, I'm okay with that. So that's where we were now. So obviously I go back to my spiritual worker and I update her on things. And so she's like, okay, give me all the names to the people in the courts. So, since the Menace and his people are working witchcraft over my court case, we can do the same thing. So I gave her that, and pretty much it was because we knew that the female judge believed me. It was just about her convincing the other judges to believe me as well, or to not, put me in prison for these things. So it was like, that's pretty much what the work was done on, for the female judge to convince the main judge, the one that was making the ultimate decision over my life, on, that I'm not the one to set an example for in Korea for this fent situation. So My last court date, I testified, and I, pretty much told them everything that I've kind of told you all. Some stuff I know that I left out, but I told them everything. I was like, this was my ex. He really could have murdered me. He was very abusive throughout our relationship, and mentally and physically. And he was on drugs. I was like, as you can see from the case file, as you can see from the evidence, he is the person that was on drugs. Mind you, I had sent in video evidence of him being on drugs. I sent in a lot of things, and people from his past also wrote statements about him being on drugs as well. So I was like, I'm really sorry that this happened, but please give me another chance at life. I really worked really hard throughout my lifetime to build what I have. And this has just completely been, so terrifying. This whole experience in Korea has been so terrifying. And I'm so sorry that this happened in your country. I really truly wish that I could go back in time and change things and never have brought the menace into Korea. So that was pretty much, long story short, of what my testimony was. And then the next date was sentencing. How I was framed for smuggling rugs in a foreign country, part 42 of the Menace saga. So, sentencing. I go to court for sentencing on July 10th. Also, y'all, I just wanted to clarify some things as well. When I first started this story, I was obviously still going through trial. You can tell from the days that I posted those videos. So when there was a pause break, I was still going through trial and didn't want to talk about what was going on in Korea until trial was over. At the time that I was posting those videos, I knew that trial was coming to an end soon. So I went ahead and started the story and then had a pause in it till trial was over. And then that's when I pretty much resumed telling this story. So just so you all have that timeline. But I walked into court and I'm standing up there for sentencing. The judges they started off and they were like, from the Menace's testimony, which the Menace gave a testimony to the prosecutors prior. They were referencing that, and they were like, the Menace's testimony proves that you were involved in smuggling fent to Korea. And so, y'all, when I tell y'all, when he said that, my heart sunk to the floor. Like, oh shit, this is going bad, this is going bad, this is going bad. And so he ended up turning that around, and he was like, but from your testimony, from your witnesses, and from everyone else involved, and he listed off some of the evidence that I had in my case file. He was like, it is clear to us that the Menace was lying. So in the case for illegally smuggling fentanyl into Korea, not guilty. And I was like, thank you. Thank you so much. I could have literally cried, okay? And so he goes on to the Adderall, and he says, for the case of smuggling Adderall into Korea, from your education, from your work experience, from your job, we can tell that you're not a dumb girl. You could have easily researched whether or not Adderall was illegal in Korea. And yeah, pretty much guilty on that. And I was like, okay, I can accept that. I can accept that. Also, though, like I said, Adderall's in Korea. You can get it from base. So I think, if my lawyer, she was a good lawyer, but she just didn't know the SOFA regulations. And I think if she knew the SOFA regulations, she would have been able to fight that a little harder. She would always try to get me to look up the SOFA regulations to fight my case. And I was like, no, here's the regulation. You look it up. You're the lawyer. Why am I finding stuff for you? And like I said, I wasn't really worried about that, and I wasn't really working hard on that. So that's what happened. I got not guilty on smuggling fent into Korea, and I feel like they felt like they had to give me something. So they gave me a slap on the wrist, and they gave me guilty for smuggling Adderall. So I was sentenced to 2 years in prison. And that prison sentence was reduced to 3 years of probation. How I was framed.
Anything I say, I can.
How I was framed for smuggling drugs in a foreign country, part 43 of the Menace Saga. So, what probation means in Korea? I don't have a probation officer. I don't have any of that. I pretty much just can't get in trouble for the next 3 years. Also, if I want to leave and re-enter the country, I have to ask Korea for permission to do that. Obviously, before this trial and everything happened and I ended up having to shell out additional funds, my initial plan really was to resign from my position and go home immediately. But since this next set of trial and kind of everything surrounding it, I ended up having to shell out more money. I just was not completely prepared to leave the way that I wanted to. So I decided to stay. I want to go home. I want to visit my family. I do want to do all that, but I just don't trust Korea to uphold their end of the bargain if they do say that I can return to Korea after leaving to go visit the United States. Because of everything that I went through, I just don't trust that. So I haven't left yet. My contract is up in February. So that's when I'm going to leave. I am just at this moment saving up money and plan to get out of here then. Also, after the final trial date, my lawyer was consistently telling me that I need to appeal for the decision for my prescription medication. And I was just like, no, I have no reason to appeal. That makes no sense. It doesn't hurt me in any way. No. And they pretty much begged me to appeal. And obviously me appealing would mean that the lawyer gets paid again to go through trial again. And my entire time being in Korea would mean that I would be on trial because, as you can see, trial takes a long time and it takes 5 to 6 months. So also during this time, they were trying to convince me to appeal, and they were saying that the lawyer could write a letter to the courts. If I appeal, the lawyer can write a letter to the courts and request that I go home to visit my family. So obviously, I was pissed because you mean to tell me that that was an option this entire time, and all this time that I've been asking to go home to visit my family, you all have been saying no, that it's not possible. And now all of a sudden, if I appeal the court, now it's possible? No. Yeah, that's where we're at. I'm just preparing to leave in February. And I can't get in any more trouble, but I don't do anything in Korea anyway to get in trouble. So that's what it is. If I get in trouble, then I'll be retried for all the other charges that happened. So, yeah. Now we're going to get into some of the evidence and the documents from court. So here is one of the court documents, and I'm going to keep scrolling, but you can pause to read. But basically, it is talking about how the Menace's statements are inconsistent or contradictory. And it also talks about how the Menace said during his meeting with the prosecutors that I got into his email and got his father's personal information and forged his father's medical documentation. But then it goes on to say that's pretty much impossible because how would I know the date of his date of birth, date of death, reason for passing? Like, there's no way I would know any of that without the Menace. So it goes on to say that. So this is talking about the Menace's statements in the prosecutor's office, and it talks about the text messages that I mentioned. And it said in the prosecution meeting, the Menace said that he had never given me painkillers or fent, but then also turned around to submit text messages that asked me, did I want perk? So they finally saw this and realized this, and yeah, it also goes on to say that the menace said that I took Fent regularly and that I had given him Fent. So yeah. I blocked out a lot of the information because it is talking about witnesses' statements and people from his past, and it would be identifying information if that was in here. So that's why a lot of that information is blocked out, just to protect those witnesses. But yeah, it's also going on to say that he clearly was involved in illegal rug activity because he was arrested for it prior to coming to Korea and also after leaving Korea. It also talks about how my doctor also submitted statements for me as well. And my doctor pretty much said that I have never been involved with rugs. And I have been with that doctor since I believe like 2016 or 2015. So that's also there. Can the Menace's doctor say that? I doubt it. So you can pause to read, but this one pretty much talks about how it is strongly suspected that the menace gave me Fent as Percocets. And it also goes on to talk about the incident, the other court case that we had in Korea where the menace broke into my home and stalked me and stole things from my home. And it also just goes on to say that the menace has pretty much been lying since he arrived to Korea. Also, y'all, this was translated in a translation app. So a lot of the times when it says he, it's referencing me. I'm the defendant, but it says he a lot when it should say she. Their translation doesn't translate to she. So this one is pretty much talking about when we arrived to Korea. And it's talking about the Fent being found in my bag. And it's pretty much saying, like, if I had known that I was doing something illegal, I had time to throw things away, to get rid of things, or to leave the airport. But my actions at the airport did not prove that I knew I was doing something illegal. So me waiting in the waiting area, going back into the airport and, checking on him and everything, it just doesn't make sense that I would do that knowing that I was doing something illegal. So that's pretty much what this is saying. And then it's just like, in conclusion, there's really not enough evidence to prove that I committed a crime. So y'all, don't mind my laundry in the back, but that is finally the end of the Menace saga. Finally. So I do have a live scheduled. I'm going to get on live next week, Saturday, 8 a.m. my time. So that's like Friday night, y'all's time. I don't know. Y'all are going to have to look that up, but it is scheduled. I think you can see the link in my bio. So that will be the final live that I do, answering questions about the Menace. Any lives after that, I will no longer answer questions about the Menace saga unless there are updates of some sort. So yeah. That is it, y'all. I'm finally done. We can get to just get on with life, and I don't have to relive this anymore after Saturday of next week. Thanks. Thank you for sticking around, and thank you for the new supporters and the new cousins that I have, my new TikTok fam. So y'all, yeah, I just thank y'all for the support, for real. And I just thank y'all for sitting here through this long story time. I know I'm the most horrible storyteller, but I tried to get it out. I was reliving trauma. No matter how many times I tried to re-record videos, it just never came out right. So, that's just what it is, but it's over, y'all. It's done. So thank you, everyone who stayed tuned this whole time.
Y'all, and this is the end of the story. Let me know what y'all think of all of this, because this was indeed a story. It was crazy. Let me know your thoughts. How do you feel? Do you feel like she did it to herself by not paying attention to the red flags? Do you feel like we all make mistakes? So, there should be some grace there for her to make mistakes in life. Granted, no one wishes this much, tragedy on anybody, but maybe this was the lesson for her to learn, you know? So let me know whatever it is that your thoughts are. Let me know in the comment section. Let's keep it clean and cute. Or go on. Let me know what y'all think, and I'll catch y'all next one.
Queen of my world,